Oh! What's up, pro guides? I'm in GameLeapers, it's the Jizz, and I have some exciting news for you because the mobility changes for 11.13 have been released by Riot. More specifically, Margetta, the 35% win rate gold 4 player, and in this video I have the pleasure of telling you what these changes are and what they might mean. Now, some of these are bigger than diamond egos, and so big in fact that it's almost impossible to predict what's going to happen on the Rift as a result, but the Jizz will do his best. Now, as we get into these mammoth changes, guys, I want you to smash that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss any big news Summoners Rift related. And I also want you to check out the GameLeap website so you can achieve your rank goals this season. Do you want to beat your friend's rank? Do you want to brag to mum and dad about you climbing a tier in just one season? Well, our site will help you achieve just that. More than a dozen challenger videos are published every week, so get signed up, links in the description and comment section. Alright, so let's get into it, guys. Now, there are 12 changes coming here, and 11 to items, 1 to a rune, and in the top lane there are 7 item changes here, so we're going to start off with these. So the first one I want to talk about is the mythic Stride Breaker, and you guys better get ready for this because the dash is getting removed. That's right. You are no longer going to have to worry about Darius's dashing across your screen, or Garen doing just the same, or Nah doing just the same, or Set doing just the same. The dash is no longer here. But there are a couple of compensation buffs to this, so the dash is gone, but what Riot are doing are giving you more damage when you use Stride Breaker's active, which is now 150% of your total AD, and the actual slow when you do hit an enemy champion with the active is now increasing to 90%, which decays to 40% over 3 seconds, so it's a second longer, and over twice as strong. Now this is crazy, so if you do actually get onto an enemy champion as a bruiser now, there is no way they escape. It's like they're doubling down on the slow, but removing the actual mobility of it. So pretty much what this means is, yes, if you do get called out by a Darius, by a Set, by a Garen, you are very likely going to die. Like, there's very little counterplay now, which means you're going to have to keep your distance, you're going to have to kite very, very well indeed to actually survive against this. But once again, the dash is removed, so it is less scary. Now, the cooldown is actually getting reduced as well by 5 seconds, and because this scales with ability haste, this means that you can get multiple of these off during a fight. But what else is getting changed in Stride Breaker? Well, there's a few things here. So the heroic gate passive, which means when you do damage, you get movement speed, your movement speed you get is actually down by 10, and the mythic passive, which used to give you 3% movement speed, will now give you 2% movement speed for each major item you have. So in the big picture, again, what this means is that there is more kite ability for enemy champions. There's a bit more counterplay there. And to top it all off for the Stride Breaker changes, guys, coming in 11.13, Riot are doubling the health from 200 to 400. Now, when I saw this, I thought about one champion in particular here, and that is Urgot. Because with Urgot, because you build Titanic Hydra, this is great. The more HP you have, the more AD you're going to get once you build Titanic Hydra. So I thought this was very interesting for Urgot. But on the whole, for any champion building Stride Breaker, 200 more HP means you're tankier, of course, harder to take down. So honestly, this Stride Breaker change is like a completely different item now. Let me know in the comments what you think of it. Is there a champion you think is going to be really broken? Is this going to completely ruin some of the champions that build Stride Breaker? Let me know what you think down below. Now, the next mythic I want to talk about in the top lane that you can build is Trinity Force. And for Trinity Force, guys, the movement speed on hit you get when you use your Spellblade passive, it's going down by 5. But the compensation buff for this movement speed decrease is you're getting more AD for it. Now, honestly, if I was playing Camille, if I was playing Wukong, I would much prefer 5 more AD than 5 movement speed. That's just how I feel, because damage gets you kills, kills gets you snowballing, snowballing gets you wins. So I think this is definitely a worthy trade. It's just that, yeah, Divine Sunderer is by far the best Sheen mythic in the game, so there's still no real point in going Trinity Force if you are playing a Sheen-based champion. Now, this next top lane item getting changed is not a mythic, and it is actually rarely built, and this is Force of Nature, which is the tank magic resist item, or one of them anyway. And what Riot are doing are removing the magic resistant movement speed stacking you get, and instead they are replacing it that when you are immobilized, so you're stunned, you're rooted, you're snared, whatever it is, you are going to regenerate 8% of your max HP over 4 seconds. But here's the thing, guys, Force of Nature is an item for magic resist, so if the passive isn't giving you any MR anymore, what's the point of actually building it? So this just looks like a complete gut, and even if you do regenerate 8% of your max HP over 4 seconds, like, this is more health based and not actually MR based. So yeah, really weird change this one, and it just makes Force of Nature worse, and it wasn't even really built that much beforehand. Now, one item that has been built a lot more recently is Black Cleaver for you bruisers and fighters out there. So if you're playing Lee Sin, if you're playing Urgot, if you're playing Riven, these champions do really well with a new Black Cleaver, which is again now reducing your arm by 30%. So what Riot are doing are giving you more HP, so 50 more, but they are reducing the movement speed per stack of your carve. So as you're dealing damage to an enemy champion, you are going to get less movement speed. Now the 50 HP you're getting in return doesn't really make up for that movement speed loss, to be honest. So this is a bit of a nerf, but the good thing again is that you are keeping that 30% armor reduction. So Black Cleaver as a tank shredding item, still has a real purpose. Now speaking of tanks, well this next item, Udyr, Hecarim used to build it a lot. Some other tanks might build it as well. This is Dead Man's Plate. So for Dead Man's Plate, guys, the charge time when you're actually getting your active auto attack, so you're going to be getting more of these off in fights and slowing your opponents, which of course is a good thing. But the maximum movement speed you're getting from your passive is down by 20, and the on-hit damage you get when you do auto attack an enemy champion is going to be based off your AD, no longer magic damage. So people who build armor are going to feel this auto attack less, but the identity of Dead Man's is changing a little bit from getting it for the insane movement speed you get to actually getting it for the enhanced auto attack you get, which slows the target by 50%. So a little bit of a change here for Dead Man's. Honestly though, not that bad on the whole. Now the last top 8 item we have to talk about, guys, is another bruiser fighter item, and this is Death's Dance. So what Riot are doing are increasing the heal you get on champion takedown, so it's like a mini triumph in a way. But Riot are completely removing the movement speed you get when you take down an enemy champion. So on kills and assists, you're no longer getting 30% movement speed. Instead, you're restoring a little more HP. Now, is this worth? No, this is a nerf for sure. But the purpose of Death's Dance is to build it against champions who are heavy AD based and compositions. So it will still be useful, but yes, this is still a nerf. Now we've got 5 more items to talk about here, guys, and I want to talk about 3 items that you see most of the time in the mid lane. Now the first one is Prowler's Claw, and what Riot are doing here is increasing the cooldown by 30 seconds. This is big, so it's the same cooldown as Gale Force, and they're also changing the sand swipe active, so you can only target enemy champions now, because back in the day, or well, you can still do it now, you can actually use your Prowler's Claw to a minion, and then you can jump onto the enemy champion. This would catch a lot of people off guard if you're playing Talon, if you're playing Zed, if you're playing Kiana, these AD assassins. It was actually a really effective way of surprising your opponent and jumping on them. Now, because that's gone, it's actually quite a big nerf, and this will cuck some of your all-in opportunities. So you AD carries out there, no doubt will be happy about this, so will you mages, AD assassins as well. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on this nerf. And the last 2 items we have to talk about for the mid lane are AP items. So the first is Lichbane. So what's happening is you're getting 2% less movement speed, which, yeah, okay, it's not too bad, I guess, and you are getting 5 more AP. So on the whole, this is really more of an adjustment than a buff or a nerf. And if you're playing Echo, if you're playing Victor, if you're playing TF, yeah, it's not really that bad. And the other item we have to talk about is Cosmic Drive. So like Lichbane, you're getting 5 more AP, but you are losing some of the movement speed from the passive. And instead of scaling with your levels, so the more levels you have, the more movement speed you get, well, now it's just a flat 20. So in the early game, this isn't actually that bad, but when the late game does roll around, you are getting less movement speed, but on the whole, really not that bad of a change. So if you're playing Victor again, maybe Silas, maybe Vladimir, yeah, this doesn't seem that bad again. And the last 2 items we have to talk about, guys, are 2 mythic items that reside in the bot lane. Now these are Gale Force and then Shirelli's Battle Song. Now with Gale Force, so you AD champions out there, listen to this. The mythic passive, so each major item you have, you are now getting 2% movement speed instead of 3% movement speed, but the good thing is you're still keeping your dash. And everyone thought because, these are mobility changes, the dash in Gale Force would have been changed, but it isn't. It's staying the same. And as for Shirelli's Battle Song, with the actual active movement speed you get when you pop its active, this is now getting halved, so you're now getting 30% movement speed, which doesn't decay, which I guess is nice, but it is quite a big movement speed nerf. But the reason you do get Shirelli's is for the passive movement speed you give to you and your allies who you buff or who you protect. So if you're still playing Lulu, if you're still playing Janna, Karma with Shirelli's, it is still going to be by far the best mythic for you, so not much to worry about here. And the last change we have coming up, guys, to mobility in 11.13 is actually to a rune, and this is to Nimbus Cloak. And it's now giving you less movement speed if the summoner spell you're using has a high cooldown. So if your summoner spell has a cooldown of 250 seconds or longer, the movement speed you're getting from Nimbus Cloak is now down 10%. So if you're playing Talon, a bit of Graze, a bit of Zed maybe, yeah, this isn't really the change you'd like to see, because every time you are going to flash, you are going to get less movement speed off it, but it shouldn't really make that big of a difference. But I want you guys, if you do think any of these changes are going to make a massive difference in 11.13, and some of these still might change, by the way, and some of you might hope they do, but again, let me know in the comments what you're feeling and what you're thinking about these changes. Are they good? Are they bad for the champion or the role you're playing? Are you looking forward to them? Let me know in the comments, and as always, guys, thanks so much for watching. Remember to hit the sub button on your way out. This has been the Jizz. Bye!